Hello, I'm Lucy from In the Midst of Madness, and today I wanted to give you a bit of an update about how I am, what I've been up to, why I've been gone for so long. I don't even know how long it's been since I last recorded a mental health video. I think it's best part of 9 months, so I'm really sorry for that. It's certainly not being deliberate or anything like that. And I finally posted a review yesterday, which was the first one I've done in 6 months, and oh my goodness am I rusty. I'm very nervous because I haven't recorded anything in such a long time, so do bear with me. So the big reason why I haven't been recording is because of lots of stuff going on in my personal life. So as followers of my regular blog, my mental health blog, will know, I have been a carer for the last, I think, 3.5 years for my granddad, and he has a rare form of Alzheimer's called PCA, posterior cortical atrophy, and it started off a number of years ago, and I started caring for him, as I say, about 3.5 years ago, and that was just 2 or 3 hours a fortnight. While my nana was out, because he wasn't really safe to be kind of left on his own without possibly getting into difficulty. So I started doing that, and gradually my time there increased as their needs increased, and I was managing the blog and all of my other stuff as well as caring for Grandad. And then I think last August I started doing 2 days a week. So I was doing a weekend day and a Wednesday every week. And then at Christmas things got quite a lot worse for him, and he was starting to have a lot more difficulty. And so I started going around a lot more. Christmas was quite difficult because they had other carers, but a lot of them were busy with family. And so I was stepping in a lot, doing quite a lot of kind of urgent and emergency care, because there would be a crisis and they would need someone now, and I live locally and I was the most local person to them. So come January we were still having lots of emergencies and things, and it actually got to the point where I was there 5 or 6 days a week for a few hours each time, as well as then extending my shift at a weekend to all day. And sorry, this is probably really boring. My brain goes a bit blank when I'm recording. Anyway, basically I ended up being there a lot, and from February until 3.5 weeks ago I was there 4 days a week and working about 30 hours, including the whole weekend. And I just haven't had the mental space to do anything else. I've worked in care before. A lot of you will know that I used to work as a nursing assistant in a psychiatric inpatient unit, and that was really hard. There were obviously a lot of patients rather than just looking after one person, and so you were stretched quite thinly, but you were kind of able to leave work at work and then come home and have time off, whereas when you're looking after a family member you don't do that. There is no off switch, and so even when I wasn't at their house I was still thinking about them all the time. I'm really struggling to concentrate on anything else but them. I'm so sorry if you can hear the rumbling in the background. That's a motorbike. I live next to a road, so there's nothing I can do about it, but it's very distracting. But yeah, so I was just unable to focus on anything at all, so I haven't done any colouring apart from this page for a review yesterday. I haven't done any colouring since, well, this year. No reviewing, no writing. I think I've written about 3 blog posts in 8 or 9 months, and mostly those have been me thinking, oh my goodness, I have to write something, what can I say? And I've not felt great about those posts. I don't feel like they kind of explained anything much that was going on, because as this has gone on, more and more and more stuff has happened, and it's been harder and harder to work out what on earth to say, because it's such a big situation and it's so kind of life-changing for me, and so emotional, and I just haven't even known where to start. So I think that's why I haven't been recording anything or writing anything. There have been so many times where I really wanted to document what it was like, and a couple of times when I've sort of mentioned this situation in blog posts, people have said, oh, please write about this, please video about it, because a lot of people are carers for relatives, and a lot of people are ill themselves, and that brings with it a whole other level of difficulty, and a whole other level of stuff to try and deal with. And I think a lot of people wanted to kind of understand, well, get other people to understand what that's like, for those of us that are in this situation. And I have meant to, and I just didn't do it. Part of it was a privacy thing for my granddad, and part of it was just I would never remember at appropriate points, and I was always putting it off, and my confidence was low, and there have just been so many things. But yeah, here we are. So 3.5 weeks ago the situation completely changed, and my granddad has now moved into a care home. So that's just been unbelievably weird, because that was all arranged quite quickly. And so even at Christmas we had no idea he was even going into a home this year, let alone this month. And yeah, I've gone from spending over 30 hours a week with him and my nana to then not seeing him for 3 weeks straight. As lots of you know, I'm severely agoraphobic. I also don't drive. My partner now does, so one of the updates is that my partner has passed his driving test, so that's fantastic, but we don't currently have a car. So the only way of me getting over to see my granddad, who now lives an hour away from me, is to go with my mum, who lives on the Isle of Wight, which is 3 hours away from here, and she can't visit very often. So luckily she visited at the weekend, and we went over to see Grandad, which was really hard. I'm really glad I did it, but yeah, it was that's not easy for me, and I have no idea how well I'm going to cope with kind of future visits, especially as he deteriorates, because obviously he knows exactly who I am. I've seen him so much, and eventually he probably won't. So, and it is getting harder to kind of communicate with him, and I was really noticing that when he was still at home. The last kind of month, 5 weeks was really, really hard work, because he was just so frustrated all the time and angry, and it was just really hard caring for him, because we're not caring about him. Obviously I care about him, I love him to bits, but as in the sort of work side of it, the carer side, because he just didn't want help and didn't see that he needed it. And so when you're trying to help someone who doesn't want your help, who doesn't understand why you're doing anything, even though you're explaining why you're doing it, and I've always been very, very careful to ask before I touch someone and anything like that, but he just didn't want to be kind of interfered with, and it was just getting so difficult, because he would get really annoyed with me, and I would eventually take that personally, because I was just so tired. I've not been sleeping properly for months, and hearing the distress in his voice, and seeing kind of fear and anger, and I mean my granddad is such a placid man. He has never knowingly sworn in front of me, and the number of times I've heard him swearing in rooms when he doesn't know that I'm there, because he's just so fed up, and all of that's just been quite a shock, not because of the language he's using. I use it all the time, he'd be horrified, but just hearing a man who doesn't swear, just repeatedly swearing, or throwing things, because he's just had enough, and not being able to fix that has just been really, really hard. And actually 4 out of the last 5 weekends that I was working, I ended up in tears, because it's just been so distressing seeing him like that, and not being able to help, and him not being able to see that I'm trying to help, and then getting cross with me, and it's been really, really hard. So I am so glad that I've done it, but I'm also quite glad that that situation has kind of been taken off me, and I haven't had to make the decision that I know I was going to have to make where I was going to have to walk away from that role and just go back to being a granddaughter, because I wasn't going to cope for much longer. I was really struggling to cope, and I had given up absolutely everything else because I just couldn't concentrate. So as I say, I had stopped basically all of my hobbies because I just couldn't do them. My memory has been even worse than it normally is with the anxiety disorders, and my anxiety was starting to get worse again, and as I say, my sleep was bad. There have just been so many things, because yeah, you can't walk away. And even though I know that he's safe and well and being looked after, I think about him all the time now that he's gone to the care home. And there's still far more change to come. My nana will be moving over as well. At the moment their house is up for sale, and they've lived there for 49 years. So it's obviously an incredibly huge change for them, but it's also a massive change for my whole family. I've moved quite a lot in my life, and so actually I realised that the closest thing I have to a childhood home is their home. They've always lived there. That's always been their house. It hasn't changed much since I was a child, and so a huge number of my childhood memories and family memories are in that house. And so it's very difficult watching it being sold, and I'm currently helping my nana clear out. And again, that's really painful and really challenging for both of us, because we're having to make decisions about things for my granddad, who can't make the decisions himself, and he wasn't able to do that when he was here. It was too distressing, so we're having to do this stuff for him, and trying to decide what needs keeping and what needs to go is really, really difficult. And obviously they're downsizing, so much has got to go, and there's just so many memories. And yeah, eventually my nana will be moving, and then again she will be an hour away as well, and in the moment she's 10 minutes away, if that. And yeah, it's just going to be so strange. So it's a real kind of period of turmoil, I guess, and I just haven't known how to even put that into words most of the time, and I've been so emotional, and I don't really like letting people see my emotions. Much as I'm very, very open and honest, and I'll talk about them, I don't like showing them. And so I felt like if I talked about it on camera or anything like that, that I would just fall apart and burst into tears, and then you're not really going to get a very coherent, understandable video. So I didn't really see the point in that, and I don't like people seeing that side of my life, and so I've just kind of waited. But yeah, it's just, I think I've often described this period of illness, which is now over 5 years. It's over 5 years since I was signed off sick, and as like my life being on pause, and actually this period of caring for my granddad and then sort of being able to do nothing else has been even more so. I don't really even know how to describe it, but it really is like my life has just been paused, and everything is going in slow motion, and everything else around me is going really, really fast, and I just can't keep up. So I'm really struggling to keep up with messaging people, keep up with what on earth is going on in their lives, let alone what's going on in mine. There are just so many changes, and yeah, it's just been really, really weird, and really hard. And you can probably see I'm very distracted. I'm still really cut up about quite how long the intro to this video was, because I think so many people are going to have switched off. And I very nearly stopped it, but I only have a short window in which I can film today. And I really wanted to get a video out because I just keep not doing it. So I really hope that some of you have stuck with me and are still here. You're probably very used to the haphazard nature of my videos. You were warned about it from the first one. But yeah, it's still eating away at my brain that I wish I hadn't talked quite so long about what shifts I was doing, because that's so boring. But yeah, such is life. But yeah, it's just been so weird, because people have obviously, in my personal life, people have been asking, oh, what have you been up to? And it's like, nothing. Other than, essentially I've been at my nana and granddad's, or thinking about my nana and granddad. My flat has just ended up in a real kind of, not a state, like it's not absolutely filthy or anything, but it's just so messy, I don't know where anything is. There's just so much that needs doing. And I have started on that. And I will try and blog about that actually, because I started watching the Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix. She's like this viral sensation, and she's just the sweetest lady, and she's absolutely fabulous. And I have a tendency towards hoarding, and so I'm really trying to clear out so that I actually have more space, because like there's this saying that everybody knows about of I can't even remember how it goes now, but it essentially like tidy house, tidy mind. And I do notice that as soon as my surroundings are messy, my brain gets more messy. And it also works the other way around. When my brain is messy, so is everything else. And I'm so not moving the camera, but I'm just scanning the room, and there is just stuff everywhere. That needs dealing with, and I just don't know what to do with most of it. And so even stuff that I get out to use, I then just don't put it back, because there's just 15 other things that have got to be moved first, and I just can't. And you can hear how fast I'm breathing, how fast I'm talking, because I'm not actually breathing. Yeah, I'm very nervous, and I'm talking rubbish. But yeah, so I started watching this programme, and I bought her books, and it is really, really helping. So I got rid of a huge amount of clothes, and I think I started, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm trying to kind of do it in tandem with helping my nana clear out her stuff as well as doing my own, because I tend to feel more motivated when I get back from hers, and that's been really good. But that's basically all I'm managing to do. I'm really pleased that I got this review done. I don't think it's my best work, but I did try really hard, and no one yet has said that it was incoherent or dreadful. So that's very polite of everyone. But yeah, I've just not been able to focus or really do anything. And yeah, the last 4 months have just been a complete blur. And I just feel so overwhelmed and tired. And it's just such a lot to deal with, and I've just kind of had no release from that, because I haven't been able to focus enough on any hobbies to be able to do anything to distract myself. I mean, even watching TV, I'm struggling to keep up with plots. I've filmed about this before, but I really struggle to remember character names, especially if people look remotely similar, and so I'm struggling with TV stuff. I've just started listening to audiobooks, and I've realised that I can listen to about 10 minutes before my brain genuinely forgets to listen. And I will suddenly realise that there's noise and I don't know what it is, and that I haven't heard the last however long it's been beyond the about 10 minutes that my brain will take in for. So I'm currently listening to The Complete Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which is apparently, I think, nearly 71 hours in 10-minute bursts. And I don't even want to know how many days, months, or decades that might take me to listen to, because I also keep having to go back to try and work out where I stopped listening, so that I don't then get confused in the story later on. So yeah, it's a real challenge. So I might need to stop that for a bit. But yeah, I really can't concentrate. You can tell my train of thought is just whizzing around. And on top of all of that, my bloody kettle broke yesterday, and I'm devastated. We're getting a new one tomorrow. But I absolutely live off tea, and I don't drink enough if I don't drink tea. And I have these huge mugs. And yeah, it's just one thing after another at the moment. So yeah, I'm deeply disappointed about the lack of tea. I mean, I'm very British. That's what we live off. So I'm very disappointed that I haven't got that at the minute. And then we also found out last weekend that my partner's granddad, who was 94, has just moved into a care home a week ago, and he has cancer. And he, bless him, so he is now in a care home over an hour away in the opposite direction from my granddad. So I think for the foreseeable future, a lot of our time off, certainly my partner's time off, is going to be spent trying to travel to these various care home locations. So yeah, it's just been an awful lot to process and deal with, and I don't think I've processed or really dealt with any of it. I think I've just sort of tried to keep my head above water as best as I could manage, and it's been really hard, and I don't think I've kind of taken everything in yet. I certainly feel relieved that my granddad is now somewhere safe, albeit I desperately wish it was closer, because that's such a long way away, and to go from seeing him 4, 5, even 6 days a week for well over 30 hours to not seeing him. I'll probably see him about once a month when we have a car. It'll be about once every 2 months all the time that we don't, because that's roughly how often my mum gets over, and that's just so strange. So I'm really glad I got to see him at the weekend, and I will just make the most of each visit and just do it that way rather than kind of wishing it was different. But it is hard, going from such a lot of contact that I have valued so much. I've learned so much about him and my family and all sorts. It's been lovely hearing all of his stories and things and spending that time with him. And it's really good now that I'm spending time just with my nana, because a lot of her stuff was quite overshadowed by Grandad, and now it's just us. It's been really good when we're clearing out the house, because there are so many conversation prompts that we're finding, and so we're having all sorts of weird and wonderful conversations. And my granddad was quite, I don't really even know how to describe him, but just quite sheltered, and there are quite a lot of conversations that he doesn't feel are appropriate, and so there were a lot of things that we just wouldn't talk about while he was around, because he didn't like talking about it or thought it was not done, and all sorts of things. And so we've just kind of crammed all of those in, and so when we were going through paperwork last week, we had all sorts of chats about like breast screening, cervical cancer screening, death, assisted suicide, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, we're getting our money's worth in now. But it's going to be very different when she moves, because it's not the same having phone calls. A lot of, I mean, we have such a good relationship now, and things were quite difficult when I was growing up, because she and I are very, very different. And so there was a lot of kind of misunderstanding. But since I got ill with my anxiety disorders and I created the blog and I got her to start reading it, she now understands kind of where I'm coming from a lot more. And so we have a much, much better relationship. I mean, it's better than I ever thought it would be, or even hoped it would be. She's one of my favourite people. But most of our conversations, they're not, I don't even know how to describe it, but loads of the conversations we have are prompted by things that happen. So we'll be sat watching the news and something comes up, and then we have a really good conversation about that, or a TV programme, or, I don't know, as I say, when we're clearing out, finding books or music or paperwork, and then she'll tell me about those things. And they're not the kinds of things that you can just randomly think up to ask about. But they've been such wonderful conversations to have, and I'm going to be really sad to not have those as regularly and not have that as much in my life, because that's been such a great thing to have. And I've learnt so much more about her just in the last 3 weeks since Grandad moved, and in between as well a bit, but much more so in the last 3 weeks. and that's been really, really special to me. So yeah, that's going to be very hard to not have anything like as much of anymore. But I'm very much making the most of what we are doing at the moment and trying to kind of absorb all of it. Because yeah, we've had some lovely conversations. Like, we watched a brilliant series while I was still a carer for Grandad. I think it was called Back in Time for School, and it was a group of school kids in this sort of makeshift school, and it went through the ages from, I think, Victorian times up until present day, stopping at various different decades. And it was really interesting finding out from both of my grandparents about what their schooling was like, what their school food was like, what their lessons were, because they learnt totally different things from me. And I think had I just said, oh Grandad or oh Nana, tell me about what school was like, we wouldn't have had half the conversation that we did, because there were so many prompts about discipline and just the hours of the school day, or the languages that they learnt, or what history they learnt. Because World War II wasn't history for them, but it was for me. I learnt about that in Year 7 and did a whole project on rationing and things, and they lived through rationing. And so there were just so many things that have kind of come up. So I've certainly valued the time that I've had. And yeah, I'm just going to have to get used to all of the changes, but it has meant that I feel quite lost. Because I don't know what my life is going to kind of look like beyond them. And it's kind of weird because they won't have died, and so there's no sort of moving on from it. I don't know, it's just, the whole situation is just really weird. I've not been in this situation before. So it's very strange, and obviously I will still have contact with them and I will still visit, but it will be so few and far between compared to recently. And so it's a huge adjustment to go through. And yeah, I don't quite know how I will sort of feel, or, well, I think mostly I'll just feel sad, because I'm going to miss them. But yeah, I don't know how my life will look, because it's taken up such a large chunk of my time for such a long period of time. I mean, 3 weeks away from my granddad is the longest I've not seen him for in well over a year. And yes, it's just really strange. So I've been trying to start up my hobbies again as I can, and just doing my best to try and keep busy and trying to get my brain to slowly catch up, and get more focused and get a bit more involved in things. So I'm really hoping that I will be back with more videos. Please do let me know what content you want to see. I know I'm always saying that, but I'm not exactly inventive at the moment, and I don't want to bore you all senseless with with chat about timetables and work hours and things. So yeah, don't let me make that mistake again. But yeah, just let me know what you want to see, what you want to know. I'm very happy to be asked direct questions, or be given sort of vague topics or specific topics, anything, just anything you want to know, anything that you think that I can cover would be great, because yeah, I'm a bit at a loss as to what to do with my time at the moment, and I'd really like to do something productive and get back to kind of helping people and stuff, because I've missed that, and I've missed all of you guys, and hopefully at least one of you has missed me and my rambling mess of these vlogs. But I'll leave it there, because I'm totally confused and lost now. But it's been lovely to video again, even though I have been really nervous and I think I've totally messed this up. But yeah, do let me know what you think. Do give me a thumbs up if it's remotely worth a thumbs up, and please do subscribe to my channel if this is the kind of content you want to see. And I'll see you again soon. Bye!